If you had $1 million, Terry, in Kina, the local money, within one day, we could probably turn that to three. I bought nuggets along this river from everybody who was panning. Everybody had nuggets, big ones, big as your
Really?
pinky nuggets. Yeah, big
Really?
as your pinky. Lubo says, "I'm warning you right now. You have to listen to me, or you're in trouble." He hunkers down. He's locked and loaded. He's got all kinds of guns, security guards with M16s, professional security. He's got everything. He's got a helicopter. He's there and he's trying to negotiate with them. In the middle of the night, they cut the locks off his container. They dragged him out and they shot his arms off with shotgun. And then I realized this gold thing is full of danger.
Okay, online with me, I got Stephen Bennett, who contacted me and was telling me an interesting story about a place that I've heard some other people talk about stories. And some of the stories I've heard, these people was lucky to get out of there with their lives. And you're telling me that you spent some time there and you had a little bit of run-ins and whatnot. And so with that, Stephen, I'm just going to let you start in with your story, start in how you ended up over there and what happened. And with that, hit it.
Hey, Terry, thank you. Yeah, amazing. He's talking about the island of Papua New Guinea. I think it's the seventh largest island. I'm not sure. It's just north of Australia. And half of the island is occupied and run and governed by Indonesia. It's divided straight in the middle. And the other half is independent Papua New Guinea. In 1975, Australia gave independence to Papua New Guinea. And since then, I can't comment. But if you want some adventure, danger, and excitement, go there. I did.
And
I
the
went.
stories, sorry for cutting you off there, but
That's
the
all right.
stories I heard, there was definitely some danger. If you're out looking for gold, if you're out there was some treasures out there, some gold bars found, and definitely if you get involved in that part, there's definitely some dangers. So sorry for cutting you off there. What was you gonna say?
Yeah, it's full of danger. I got my teeth knocked out 2 weeks after I arrived, and I was
Holy,
on a 1 year trip. Anyway, yeah, I first went there in 2006. I'm an artist. I'm a portrait painter. I have been traveling for 40 years to 50 countries, painting portraits of indigenous and local people. I've amassed a huge collection of these paintings, and I exhibit them around the world as a cultural exhibit to promote diversity and the preservation of indigenous people and all of the indigenous people, and not just the colored ones, the white ones, and everyone else.
so just real quick, I seen some of your paintings and stuff, man. They're pretty incredible. What's your
Yeah,
website, real
I've been.
quick, so people can
Thank
see
you,
that?
thank you, Terry. Yeah, you can see them at stephenbennett.us. Yeah, it's a fantastic thing. I was very lucky to kind of get pointed in the right direction as an artist by some mentors as a young man. But my story in Papua New Guinea started with watching National Geographic films, as a young man and seeing all these tribal people. There are 900 tribes in the island of Papua New Guinea and 900 languages.
Wow.
I spent maybe 3 years there, but you could spend a lifetime and never figure it out. It's an incredible thing, because the island is made of many valleys. Each valley developed its own culture and its own language. It's just incredible. So there's probably hundreds of undiscovered tribes there. And for some reason, that island is loaded with precious metals. I mean, they lit it. OK Teddy was, I think, a Canadian mine where they removed an entire mountain. I flew over it. The mountain is gone.
Hmm.
That's how much gold is there. And from what I learned, the gold in Australia comes from Papua New Guinea. The gold in Australia traveled underground from Papua New Guinea, I don't know when, millions or thousands of years ago. And so Papua New Guinea is the source of a lot of the Australian gold. And, they're doing tremendous mining there. And there's incredible finds, giant nuggets and things like that. Well, in 2006, I went to Papua New Guinea as a portrait artist, looking to make a series of paintings of the indigenous people. And when I arrived, I was adopted into a family, which will happen to you if you do go there. They don't like strangers around, so they adopt you and they protect you, and if you help them, they help you, and it becomes a beautiful experience. I made friends there that fought for me. and it's an amazing experience. I'm going to cry. It's so incredible.
Wow.
Anyway, anyway, 2 weeks after I arrived, I was at a giant festival. I got jumped by 10 guys with guns. They knocked my teeth out. They robbed everything I had. They beat up all my friends. And then I went back home to my family who had adopted me. And they said, "What the beep happened to you?" And I told them what happened. And they said, "Where?" And I said, "Down there in that settlement down in the valley." And they said, "All right." And out came the gasoline, the machetes, the knives, the every weapon they could possibly find. They were back within the hour. The whole valley was smoking, and they came back with every single thing that had been stolen from me.
Really?
My cameras had been smashed, and they said that the children were playing with my 36 rolls of film as
Wow.
toys.
Uh,
And that's an amazing thing. That was a miracle. I got my photos back. You can see them on my website. And then I traveled around Papua New Guinea. But while I was there, I kept hearing about gold, gold, gold. And I said, this is interesting, but I'm an artist. I'm busy with that. I had to fly to Singapore to get my visa renewed. And in the airport, I met a man named Lubo Todorov. He is called, or has the name, the Golden Swimmer. He is a Bulgarian man who grew up in Bulgaria and in the 1960s escaped from communist Bulgaria, swam across the Adriatic Sea, survived the Adriatic sharks, which
wow.
don't come out in the rain. They do not come out in the rain. And he swam in the rain wearing an entire Beatles costume because he was fascinated with the Beatles. He arrived in Italy, and in Italy, he met someone from the Australian embassy. They provided him a visa and passage to Australia, and he left. And he started businesses in Australia, became very successful, and then discovered up in the Palmer River in northern Australia, in Queensland, that the entire place is packed with gold. Every riverbed has sitting on the bottom gold, gold, gold. And I don't know if you look it up online, you can read a book called River of Gold by Hector Hell House, I think his name is. Hell House, River of Gold. It's the whole story of the Palmer River Gold Rush, where the Australians arrived first, the Aboriginals ate half of them, and then the Chinese came in from the north, and then the Aboriginals decided not to eat the whites, that they like to eat the Chinese better. They would hang you from a tree by your feet, and when they wanted to eat you, they hit you over the head and cooked you over a barbecue. So that's an interesting story. You should read
Wow.
that. Aboriginals don't like to hear that, but that's just part of their history. I'm sure
Yep. Yep.
European people did some terrible things too. Anyway, so Lubo, my friend, he's my mentor. He's the golden swimmer, the Bulgarian immigrant to Australia. He starts an entire mining community. I don't know. He's an amazing organizer, very charismatic, a very special personality, very magnetic, I guess you would say. He started a community of gold miners in the city of Cairns, a club where they would go out on the rivers and they collect gold. He bought his house within the first 2 weeks.
Really?
That's how much is there. The economy of this city of Cairns, which is a famous scuba diving place to go visit the Great Barrier Reef presently, the economy started to boom. I mean, imagine these guys, there's tons of gold, pawn shops opening, everybody having a lot of fun. The Australian government came in, shut it down. They said, no more dredging, no more gold. You can pan in the rivers, but they're all Aboriginal property, and that's all over. So Lubo said, what are we going to do now? He found out that the gold comes from Papua New Guinea. He said, I'm going up there. He's been there for 30 years. He went out into the rivers. He's based in Wewak. His company is National Gold Limited. He's very old now. He's not really operating his company. I think he's there because he's gone local and having a good time there, as you can imagine. He's famous in the entire region. Everyone knows him. Everyone knows his name. He's the gold man. And I found out about him, of course, in the airport. But then when I looked him up online, I found out that he was famous and he had a company, and he was producing dredges for his custom-made, custom-designed dredges based on his ideas and his trial and error up on these rivers. So he is located in the city of Wewak, Wewak is on the northern coast of Papua New Guinea, and during World War II, Wewak was the largest military base for the Japanese in the entire Pacific Ocean. Wewak, Papua New Guinea. Okay, and this is one of the places where the Japanese during the war were their naval ships were coming in and out, and they're moving a lot of stolen goods. They stole every bit of lead, copper, zinc, silver, gold from Asia for 60 years. If you want to know more about this, read Sterling Seagrave's book about Yamashta's gold, or Yamishta. You know his name, Terry. I forgot his name. You know, Yamashta's gold.
Yamamita.
Yeah.
Yoshimita.
Sterling Seagrave is the author. I actually was in touch with him online. He got very angry with me because I wanted to go to Papua New Guinea to find some of the gold, you know, but I needed the money. My house burned down. What was I going to do? So, so I landed in Wewak. I was welcomed by Lubo. I went to his home. He happens to live next door, overlooking the bay where all the naval ships were. It's a beautiful bay. You can't go swimming. It would be a beach paradise, but the sand fleas are so terrible there. They literally will put you in bed in one day. They'll knock you out.
Really?
Yeah, sand fleas, something insane. You cannot see them. You cannot feel them bite you, but when you get home, you're going through like at least 6 days of a nightmare of itching. Yeah, anyway, let's not get distracted. Another reason not to go there. So Wewak is amazing. It's full of like 10 expat white Australians who are running the place, and then the rest are the local black Melanesian people who are having a lot of fun because life's very easy there. Very easy. Yeah, it's a great climate. It's very hot, lots of food, lots of fish. Yeah, one of their favorites is turtles. I got to see them harvest a lot of turtles, which to a lot of people would be offensive, but they're hungry. So Lubo starts to show me around. He's an artifact collector. He has one of the largest collections of oceanic Papua New Guinean art in the world. And he has an export license to move gold from Papua New Guinea to Australia. So he has been buying gold. He has 900 of his custom-made machines operating in the Sepik River and up into the highlands. The Sepik River is a giant delta of a maze of rivers that's probably killed thousands of explorers. It's a horrible, horrible place, full of mosquitoes, crocodiles, fruit bats. Malaria is everywhere. People dying of malaria all along the river. I carried enough malaria medicine to cure 100 people, and I got rid of all of it, every time I went. I went up that river 10 times. It's insane. You have to travel by dugout canoe. There's river pirates who are looking to steal your stuff or your fuel. Mostly they want your fuel. You got to carry guns, and I couldn't buy guns. If you want to buy a black market AK-47 or M16, it's stolen from a Papua New Guinea military base and sold on the black market, 10,000 US dollars.
Really?
Each bullet is $10 on the black market. I couldn't afford that. I didn't want to get involved in that. So I made slam shotguns. You take a pipe and a second pipe, and you put a pin on the second pipe. You weld a cap on it, fits a 12-gauge shotgun, and you carry those in the boat next to you. And if they come near you, you just bang it off, and maybe they'll go away. So Lubo teaches me how things work there. Here's how he had great success. This is a beautiful story. This is how businesses should be run. And this man needs to be more recognized for what he did. He realized in Papua New Guinea that these people don't like white people because the Australians are pulling everything out of there. Believe it or not, they love the Japanese people. I spoke and sat with the president of Papua New Guinea, Michael Samari, and he told me how I could give you the interview. He told me how he was raised in a Japanese school when the Japanese occupied Papua New Guinea, and they were wonderful people. They took care of everything. He said he loved them. Anyway, the first thing Lubo told me was, be very careful, because they've been taught that, you're a conqueror, blah, 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 or you're a colonizer or whatever. So be careful. I said, okay. And then he said, here's how I did it. He invented a machine. What's the big dredge company in California that makes the river dredges? I forgot their name.
Keene?
You know them. Yeah, Keene. Yeah, he's friends with all the Keene guys. He went over to see Keene and he said, "Hey, I got some ideas about improving your dredges." And they said, "Okay, great." He bought Keene dredges. He brought them to Papua New Guinea. He tried them in the rivers. He wasn't getting any suction. He's like, "This is so slow. We're going to take 100 years. I need to multiply my suction by 100 times." So he said, "All right, I'm going to figure it out." He designed a turbine, a centrifugal turbine, and he laid it out. He brought it to a shop. They started manufacturing them. They fit on the back of an 18 horse Briggs and Stratton motor, and these things pump water. They'll pull your leg off. They're crazy. I don't know what Keens suck, but these things really go. So Lubo, in order to make friends with these people have the gold. It's all on their land. It's on their land. They own the land. They don't have a deed. They keep their land with machetes. You come on their land and they don't like what's happening, they'll cut you up. Anyway, yeah, another thing is if you want to realize what life is really like and what real justice is, go to Papua New Guinea. You'll learn about real justice, the real thing, you know.
Well, and that's true with a lot of them islands like that. You know,
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
said,
It's
what
true in
you
Africa.
yeah, what you said about that family went and got your stuff back, and they they did vengeance for you. You know that
Yeah.
happens in I've heard that about and I can't think of the name of the country or the island, but that happens on all them small islands like that, man.
Yeah.
You do something to one clan, and there's serious retaliation gonna happen.
Yeah, it's great. I really studied that because I wanted to understand how it worked, and I wanted to make sure I didn't violate any of their beliefs or ideas about this. So yeah, what happens is if you harm me, uh, I give you a warning. I say in 30 days, I want you to give me 5 pigs, and if in 30 days you don't give me the pigs, and this is called the Wontok system. Wontok system. If you don't give me the 3 pigs or whatever it was, we have to go out in the field and settle this man to man. And okay, if they don't pay, then they go to a field. They bring spears, homemade guns, anything they have, bows and arrows, sticks, clubs, knives, a lot of machetes. They're really into, and I know a lot of guys out there know what this is. It's a Brazilian machete called, oh man, what's that thing called? Oh, it's the most unbelievable piece of metal you ever handled in your. It can do anything. I'll remember it, Tomatoro or something. So yeah, so they go in the field, they go fight, and then somebody gets hurt again, and it starts all over again. And then in the end, you end up with a fighting culture. Every boy is raised to fight. Every boy is beaten all the time. Every boy is suffers because he needs to learn what it's like to feel pain, and he needs to learn what it's like to fight. And they can fight, and they don't know how to fight, but they're coming at you, man, with whatever they have. I was held up by 10 guys. They had homemade guns made out of pipes and old bullets that they found. And yeah, so this is Lubo. Lubo is the Bulgarian Australian gold miner who's kicked out of Australia. Now he goes to Papua New Guinea. Luckily, he's very successful in Australia. He has money to get started. He's hiring helicopters and having the greatest time flying around. And what he does is he goes to all the locations where he hears the rumors where there's gold on the Sepik River. He lands his helicopter, he goes out, he says, "Show me what you found." They show him their samples, he marks it on a map, he buys samples from them, he takes it back to the Papua New Guinean, what do you call those testing facilities? I forgot.
Assay.
Yeah, he gets them all assayed, he marks this map, and for 30 years he did that. And while he was doing that, he went to the local people and he said, "You got a lot of gold here. I'd like to work with you. I'm going to give you one of my machines for free, a gift. This is for you and your family and your community." Because they understand community and family very well there. It's very important. So he figured out how to communicate with them with these machines. He gave them a machine to each community that had a lot of gold in their rivers. It's this alluvial gold that comes down out the mountains. It gets dumped in the corners on these rivers that are just above the Sepik Basin. The Sepik is almost sea level, and then the mountain begins. And those rivers where the water runs down and slows down at the bottom of the river, sometimes 10 miles from the Sepik, sometimes 20. That's where the gold sits. It's been going there. It's been landing there forever. And so he gave them a machine. They all became successful. But what he told them was, listen, all the gold you get, you have to sell to me. Okay? You understand? I give you a machine, you find gold, you sell to me.
You know, sitting and chewing bitter nuts and meet a long, long white man, you know, go over there working, kissing gold for you. That's no good. So, we bring him a machine for you. All the gold coming on this machine belong you. Only one condition. That gold must be sold to the company. No, somebody come around and take you from go and we must check him to see if what you're saying is true. Now, Stephen, 2 years, come go and find one idiot Indian come in and you go with the Indian. What is good? Because me not liking people like this to do things like that, okay? You either with the company or you're not with the company. You're not the company, we don't go. Simple.
He did this for 30 years. He
Wow.
accumulated some amount of gold that I probably shouldn't talk about. And I saw it. He took me to the safe deposit boxes. I don't know how they're going to get him out of there.
Wow.
They're not coming out without a forklift, you know, or a special. How do you get them out? I don't know. You know, yeah. Every 2 months you're throwing in 20 ounces, you know, like, or a gram, or you know, I'm not a gram. I mean a kilo going in. Yeah, it's all nuggets and little chips and a lot of dust. And his machine, what he figured out is, of course, the majority of the gold is dust. It's very fine. It's you can't even see it. That's the majority of the gold in these rivers because it's been tumbling forever. He found a way to create a type of vortex inside a box behind the hoses that creates a type of zero gravity inside this box. And in the box, the water passes through, but everything that's heavier than water gets stuck and floats and then falls and then gets caught in the mats and all the ridges and ribs.
Huh.
And he could pull out gold you couldn't even see. And so I spent a lot of time with him, and I had the bug from being in New York. You know, I spent 20 years in New York, and I hung out for the last 5 years with a bunch of Irish mafia guys who robbed all the Jews on 47th Street and in the Gold Center in Chinatown. These guys were hardcore, and they were gold buyers, gold thieves, and they got involved with Mel Fisher's treasure. Because here's what would happen, Terry. It's really funny. These Mel Fisher guys, Mel hit the big time.
Mm-hmm.
They would get their money, or they would keep their piece of gold that he gave them as a payment, you know, whatever it was, chains, coins, whatever. He paid a lot of people with coins and chains. So these guys had this chain. It was a 30-foot long chain from the Etosha or another ship that crashed. And they would wear it out to clubs. It's unbelievable.
Really?
I have a photo of it. Yeah, they had it. And then they brought it into somebody to see if it was real. And they didn't trust the guy. And somebody offered them, I think, $30 million for it or something crazy. And they didn't take it, and they sold it for nothing. And then they lost out. It was a great story. But anyway, that's how I got the gold bug. But in Papua New Guinea, Lubo said, hey, if you want to make gold here, do gold here, you want to make money, you got to make friends with these people. That's what it's all about. They have to like you, and they have to feel like they're benefiting from you being there. So I'm gonna send. Yeah, go ahead.
I just saying that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very simple. A lot of people who are working there, who are very wealthy, these big miners, big money people, they are very rude and they're racist. And that's stupid. It's a stupid, because, they believe in all that. They never get out and meet people. They're just sitting in an office somewhere. So the Papua New Guineans have been mistreated. So Lubo told me what you got to do, and he took out his map. He has a paper map from like the 70s. It's one of those weird wax-coated maps that's made of fabric, that they don't break down. You know those kind?
Yep.
He's got this map, and it's literally just marked up with Sharpie where everything is that he found. Everything. It's crazy. And he said, "Okay, I got a spot. It's pretty easy to get to. It's only 2 days by boat, and I know the chief up there. And go talk to him, and bring this small sluice box, and bring back some samples. Let's see what they have. So I didn't have money to take a helicopter. That's about, I don't know what, that's like $3,000 or something to get up there. You could fly with the missionary planes. That's about 600, but they only go once every 2 weeks, and they're not very reliable. They land on these little dirt tracks in all these villages. So I took a boat because I said I got to figure out how to go on the river, because if you don't know the rivers, how are you going to know anything? I thought it would be like a tour. So I go up the river. It's unbelievable. We got the crocodile spear right in the canoe. It's a wooden dugout canoe with a 40-horse Yamaha on the back. It's built just the size of a 55-gallon drum. These canoes fit a 55-gallon drum so they can move fuel. They stack up 4 drums and then they just go. And as you go up the Sepik River, it's a hellhole, the most horrible. You are cooking in the most unbelievable humidity. You cannot bathe in the water because it's full of crocodiles and piranhas. They have a piranha there called the ball crusher, which is delicious to eat, but I wouldn't want to meet one, man, or I want to have get my, and there's leeches, and it's unbelievable. So you got to get out of it. You go, okay, so it's 2 days up the Sepik River, and you got to sleep along the river with the malaria mosquitoes in these broken down houses, raining and pouring, and you're in these horrible tents, that are leaking. Okay, I get upriver, and I meet the chief, and I brought a lot of gifts for him. Terry, guess what the #1 most valued thing in Papua New Guinea is? What is it? Meat. Meat. Meat.
Really?
Fat. Meat. Yes, of course. The highlands of Papua New Guinea have no natural mammals, nothing, just
really?
pigs and chickens, and their currency. So they're scarce, and everyone's eating them. And down in the lowlands, there's nothing but fish and nothing in the jungle but tree kangaroos and bats. Basically, there's nothing there, so there's no food. So I bring a ton of tuna, canned corned beef, and rice. And they need rice. They could go through 100 pounds of rice in 1 day, easy. Yeah, you bring out a bag of rice and you start cooking it, you're going to have 400 people there, like a half an hour. Yeah. So this guy's name is Ekis. He's a real chief. He owns a river. The river is loaded with gold. There's 6 machines running on it. Lubo's machines are running on it. But these are Papua New Guinean guys. They, when they make money, they spend it and they party. They don't buy fuel. They don't maintain the machines. They don't take care of things. And the machines break down. I show up with a little sluice box, and I hike up to the top of this mountain on the Amosai River. It's the most unbelievably brutal climb you could ever imagine. I carried all my stuff up there. I don't know how I got it up there. It took 20 guys to get everything up there. And I bought nuggets along this river from everybody who was panning. Everybody had nuggets, big ones, big as your pinky nuggets. Yeah, big as your pinky. I could go find them. They're in my basement. And then I said, wow, from everything I know, if there's a nugget on the edge of this little creek, what's on the bottom? I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
That means that a lot of gold moved through there, and a lot of it's still sitting there. If nuggets are sitting there, that means there's a lot of finer stuff sitting there. And then you just got to go find a sweet spot where it landed. Okay, while I'm up there, there's a legend of Mr. Wu, a Korean guy, Mr. Wu. He's the guy, he's the kilo corner guy. Every corner he hit, he got a kilo. He had one of Lubo's machines, and then I spent all this time chasing the legend of Mr. Wu. He's long gone. He lives up in the hills with some women and never come down. It's one of those weird stories where he just left everything and went local. It's very common there. I don't know why. He never came out after that. But he made so much money with gold. Yeah, he was like kilo corner guy. So then I mapped the river. I marked everything, and then I went down back to Lubo, and he said, man, I was right about that river the first time I went. He had been there 20 years before. He said, all right, what's Eki saying, the chief? He's saying 50%. I said, okay, that's pretty good. Let's go back. Let's bring a bigger machine. So I brought the first sluice was just a hand sluice, and I was panning. Not very good at panning. How are you at panning, Terry?
I'm not an expert. I can do it, but I'm not an expert. I don't do it enough.
Yeah, it's an art. It is. It's a beautiful thing to learn too. I highly recommend young men go learn that, because you learn about, water velocity, hydraulics, specific weights. It's a beautiful thing, and it's beautiful. Anyway, I get a larger sluice and I go up, and turns out the weather is a nightmare, disaster, failure. I don't find anything, nothing. I come back. Okay, try again. Second time, machine breaks. Third time, Lubo says, that's crazy. That place is too hard to get to. Let's go to a closer place. And then we start going to other local rivers, and we're prospecting and having a good time. And then I'm going to go off and do a side story that's related to this period of time. Suddenly, Lubo is famous. If you look him up online, you're going to get hundreds of hits. Everybody, there must be 20 guys like me that went over there and all crashed. Lucky, they're all lucky to be alive. Lubo's protected because he's made so many friends and so many millionaires there.
Mm.
And he's best friends with the president of Papua New Guinea, who lives next door. I painted a portrait of the president of Papua New Guinea and had the honor of presenting it to him in Wewak at his home. And
Cool.
that was beautiful.
Cool.
So that's Lubo. I'm not protected. Lubo's protected. So I go up the river the last time, and I see Ekis, and his son comes to me, who knows about gold. His son is a hip guy. And most of these guys up there have never left. They don't even know what's going on in the real world. I mean, I literally met two men who had some sort of sickness, probably malaria. I gave them malaria medicine. They were building a raft out of the trees from the forest to get a ride down the river to go to a doctor.
Wow.
That's a 1 month floating. So anyway, that's Secret River, crazy. So I go back to see Ekis, and then I start to get robbed. They're stealing my radios, my phones. They're breaking in my tent while I'm asleep. And I catch them all, and we do the Wong Talk thing with them. They all get booted out. And then I got to leave because I got robbed.
Wow.
And so then I go back to Lubo and I say, all right, let's try again. We go up another river. And then because Lubo is famous, this guy pops into his life. His name's Tony. I'm just going to call him Tony. Tony shows up. He's an Australian millionaire. He's done everything in Australia. He's a big businessman. He wants to do gold in Papua New Guinea because, it's cool. He comes to Lubo and he says, I have $8 million and I'm ready to go. And Lubo says, okay, let's have some meetings. Lubo tells them the deal. He said, you got to be nice to these people and you got to work with them and you can't be in a rush. There's no rushes. It took me 2 years just to meet the chief. And this guy, Tony, said, are you kidding me? I got money. I can do anything. I can go anywhere. I can't do an Australian accent, but I can do anything. So this guy, Tony, he will not listen to Lubo. He will not listen. So he goes down to the mining office, the Ministry of Mining in Papua New Guinea, which is like entering, the den of the mafia, basically. Whoever gets paid the most does the most for you. That's the deal. I've had to bribe them a few times. Yeah, in Papua New Guinea, just to let you know, it's pretty much unpoliced. There's no police, and if the police show up, if you want them to do anything, you have to pay them. Of course, they're working. What do you think?
Yeah.
They're going to do something for free. They're going to go chase people for a salary. So anyway, so this guy Tony, he decides to go down and do it through the mining office. They assign him a geologist who's a complete screw up and takes him off into some valley somewhere and does some drilling and says, yeah, there's a ton of gold right down there. And Tony goes, okay, great. He goes back, buys the license for this property for whatever, 2 years or whatever. And he goes back to Lubo. And Lubo goes, hey, buddy, I know what you're talking about. It's right there. I know the language of those people. And there's nothing there. I don't know what they told you. And Tony told them, hey, they told me it's an ancient river because, the rivers move. If you could hit an old river, an old river that's been dumping for a long time and got buried, you could find, you can drill down and find it and then dig it out. That's great. But that's a lot of work, a lot of machines. You need everything. You need excavators, bulldozers. You need containers and containers of stuff. So this Tony guy goes, I don't believe you, Lubo. You don't know what you're talking about. Lubo says, I'm warning you right now. You have to listen to me or you're in trouble. And this guy was a real racist. So this guy, Tony, he brings in, I don't know what, like $5 million worth of Chinese construction equipment, tree movers, because it's a jungle. It's full of hardwood. The trees are 500 years old. They're as big as a house. Holy smokes, you can't believe it. So he builds this custom-made barge and goes up the river. It takes him a whole year to get all his stuff up there. He lands in this place, but he realizes that he's made a mistake. He needs to build a road to get to the spot from the shore. It's a swamp. It's a swamp. And the trees are enormous and they're all over the place. And you can't go around them. You got to make a straight road. So he asked the landowners, can I cut the trees? You can keep them. We'll harvest them. So he cuts the trees, makes a road. He gets to his site. He starts digging and digging and digging and digging for 6 months, machines tearing and nothing happened. He comes back to Lubo. He says, Lubo, I can't find anything. And Lubo says, listen, you're about to get in trouble because the people that are the landowners there, they want to get paid. You've been there 6 months. How much money have you given them? They're all sitting at home going, this guy is not going to pay. He's going to split and we're going to get nothing. And Lubo said, go back to them and make a huge payment and have a big party, give away a lot of beer, alcohol, food, give rice to everyone, or they're gonna get you, man, because I know how they think. This guy Tony said, nah, nothing. He goes back up there. They tell him, listen, you took down $250,000 worth of trees. Where's the money? We want the money for the trees. And he came back and he said to Lubo, what? Lubo said, pay them, give them the money immediately. Give them, put it in a bank account or whatever you got to give them. I don't know what you're going to give them, man. He said, nah, I'm not going to do that. Okay, so Tony goes back up. He hunkers down. He's locked and loaded. He's got all kinds of guns, security guards with M16s, professional security. He's got everything. He's got a helicopter. He's there, and he's trying to negotiate with them. And they're all drunk and crazy, and he's crazy, and he's cursing at them. In the middle of the night, they they cut the locks off his container. They dragged him out, and they shot his arms off with shotguns.
Wow.
He luckily had a helicopter. They flew him back to Wewak, then into Australia, and now he drives his Land Cruiser like this. He has some sort of weird prosthetics, but he can still drive a Land Cruiser. He's back in Papua New Guinea trying to raise money to get his machines out. He can't get it. He's got like $5 million worth of machines stuck in the jungle, just rotting, you know. Anyway, so Tony's out of the picture. And then I'm back with Lubo. And then I realized this gold thing is very hard. I've been here 2 years, you know, geez, this is, whew, man. And I'm single. And, you know, I don't want to insult anybody, but I was in Papua New Guinea for 2 years and was not aroused one time.
So,
you know.
so in the 2 years you was there, did you have any luck at all or not enough?
Oh yeah, okay.
Worth
Yeah,
it, or?
of course. Yeah, because I knew these guys were panning and I knew that you could, okay, when you, I could take, if you had $1 million, Terry, in Kina, the local money, within 1 day, we could probably turn that to 3. Because when you fly up the river to where they're panning the gold out, the gold is only 90% pure, just by the way. It's got silver, copper. It's not 100%, you know, it's not 20. It's, if you were to land up there, they would all come running to the plane and you buy their gold from them. But you only have to pay 60% of its selling value. So then, you know, you can, that's what Lubo did. That's how he made a lot of money, because he just undercut the price for his hassle. You know, he had to export that stuff. Imagine getting on a plane with a briefcase full of gold in a country where anyone will jump you from anywhere. You know, it's just crazy. Okay, so what I did was I went and bought nuggets from these guys. Then I snuck it across the border into Indonesia, into Jayapura, where if you're on the Papua side, there's a Papua New Guinea side, independent, and then there's the Papua side run by Indonesia. They have the same highlands, the same gold. It's a massive gold rush there, but the Indonesian government runs it, and you do not. This is over-policed, this place. It's unbelievable. It's sophisticated. They got roads, security checks every five clicks. You know, it's crazy there. So I would go and get like, I get 10 ounces up the river, and then I would take it down, and I would take a R&R break in Indonesia, which is very similar to going to Bali, but they're Muslim on the island of Papua. The Indonesians are. The blacks are Christian. So I'd go over there and I would sell gold. And I would go into these like Chinese shops. I mean, these places are something out of the 50s. Terry, you would love it. You walk in, it's a Chinese guy. He's got a glass counter, and it's just loaded with nuggets and all that Chinese gold with all the copper in it, that they say is 24, that fake stuff.
Yeah.
And then in the back, they're smelting all the gold that all the boys are bringing out of the mountains, because it's all coming down to Jayapura, which is the closest city to the mountains by road or by air. So they're all there. So the Chinese guy is so great. You throw your gold down on the counter, on the glass counter. He like looks at it. He knows what it is immediately. He pulls out a loop. He looks at it, make sure it's not like a ground up padlock, which is the classic trick, grind up a brass padlock and try and, yeah, the old brass padlock trick.
Yeah.
Yeah, they mix that in with everything. And then he just gives you cash and you leave. And then I went there for a couple of years, but they all went out of business. I think that the government locked down. There was a guy who came and bought Lubo's machines. He bought I had one Lubo machine, one of his 8-inch double motor ones in the end. And this guy bought 20, and he was smuggling so much stuff across the border because you didn't have to deal with Papua New Guinean customs. You just bribed the customs guy at the border. Just one guy sitting there in a little broken down shack with a metal roof as you go over the border, You just give him $10 and he'll let you just move anything you want, That's where all the illegal vanilla out of Papua New Guinea comes from. I could have made a lot more of a vanilla than gold. Yeah, I mean you can go to the border there and buy vanilla for 5 cents a bean, and it sells for $3 a bean in the European market.
Huh.
Well, anyway, I was there, and Lubo, I told you before, has the largest private collection of Papua New Guinean art, because these guys come and they want money to his house. They have a little bit of gold, but they all have artifacts, and they know they're valuable, so they offer them to sale to Lubo. He buys them and just piles them in containers. He'll buy anything that comes, he buys it. Doesn't matter what it is. And I'll tell you a little side story. He called me. I lived in New York. He called me, New York City. He called me and he said, "Hey, I want to go to the Oceanic Art Festival." I said, "Okay, I'll meet you at the airport." I meet him at JFK. He's wearing a full khaki outfit. That's all he wears is the Marlin Perkins khaki outfit. I'm not kidding, Terry. White beard like me, Marlin Perkins outfit. Those are like those gum shoes with the suede leather. Those kind of the gum shoes, gum bit.
Yep.
He's wearing those. And he's got they got a vest on with all the pockets, and he's carrying a leather briefcase, a really heavy duty, like English one with the lock you can't break, And I'm looking, going, "Okay, what's up?" And he goes, "Hey, I want to go tomorrow to Pace Gallery, 57th Street. I said, "Okay, I know where that is. That's the #1 oceanic art gallery in the world, 57th Street in Manhattan." This is a crazy story. This got me off on a whole nother thing. Okay, so I take him up there. He looks like he's a crazed man from the jungle. Think about it, Terry. We're walking into a 57th Street gallery, and the girl behind the counter is a stunning model. The art, everything's $1 million on the wall. It's crazy. And they're looking at me like, "Oh no, we got to reject another bunch of geeks that showed up here. They don't know what they want, a postcard for free or something." So I go, "Hi, excuse me. I'm here with my friend Lubo Todorov from Papua New Guinea. He's a collector of oceanic art, and he'd like to speak to your director." Secretary jumped up, turned around, and the director was standing in front of us within like 1 minute.
Really?
And he said, "Mr. Todorov, come in the back, come in my office." So we go back in his office, and we're looking over Central Park, big glass windows, and artifacts all around. And they start talking about all the different tribes on the Sepik River together. They're both experts. They're anthropologists, because Lubo lived there, and this guy who runs the Pace Gallery is an expert because he buys and sells the art from all of these individual tribes. They all have a different style. They all have a different style. They all have a different, it's amazing. It's a whole very deep thing. So Lubo's sitting there with a briefcase, and it's closed, of course. And the guy from the Pace Gallery is getting more and more interested in Lubo because Lubo knows everything. He speaks the language. Lubo speaks perfect Pidgin language, which is a Creole language that the Papua New Guineans invented from all the colonists who came there, the English, everyone else. Like I'll give you an example. Like if you want to say your name, you say name belongum me Stephen. What name belongum you? That's Pidgin. Me likem you.
Yeah.
Me likem you. And many other, food is kai kai. And every guy at my camp every night would start yelling this. Kai kai come, me hungry. Kai kai come, me hungry. They're all yelling, beating on stuff.
Huh.
I had to feed like 20 guys every night. It was a lot of fun too because we were out hunting. I mean, they had to go hunting. We were eating tree kangaroos and fruit bats, and man, it's a crazy place. Anyway, I'm in the gallery with Lubo. And then Lubo says, have something I want to show you. And he opens the briefcase. And the guy's mouth drops open, goes, okay, let me look at that. He picks it up and he goes, yeah, that's Karawari River, blah, 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 blah. He goes, yeah, that's a nice piece. And that's all Lubo has. He doesn't have any toothpaste or, anything. He's just carrying this wooden sculpture. It's a little naked man with a big head and a penis and testicles. And he's just standing there with a little like feather on his head. It's carved out of wood. It's really polished and beat up looking. And the guy goes to Lubo. Yeah, well, you want me to represent that piece for you? I guarantee you'll get $125,000 for that.
Really?
Probably this week. I'm going to put it up for $250,000, and I'll give you half. And Lubo said, that's funny. I don't want to sell it. I just like collecting them. This starts to get fun, Terry, because these dealers are, if you were to kind of analyze what they do and the amount of work they do and the amount of money they make, they should be doing more work. Because I did some work in the jungle. They've never done that. They fly in first class. And they go to there's one lodge on the Karawari River. It's run just for these people, these big collectors and museum people. And guess what happens, Terry? They never get to buy anything because the local people won't sell them anything because they know it's a scam. When somebody shows up at your house and they're all dressed up and the big watch and are you going to lower your price or are you going to raise it?
You're gonna raise it, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so Lubo says, no, I just want to show you one more thing. And then I realized, why is Lubo in this gallery? What is he doing there? He's there to taunt this guy. He's there to bother him and make him envious. So fun, so much fun. So he pulls out a little binder, a little photo binder. He starts showing the photo bind to this guy. It's pages and pages and pages of photos of sculptures and carvings and masks and the weirdest looking weapons you've ever seen. And the guy is like getting nervous. He's going, what? And Lubo's going, yeah, that's my stuff. Pretty nice, huh? And the guy's going, all right, Mr. Lubo, it's really nice to meet you. And the last thing this guy said, you know what he said?
What?
He said, if you were to put your collection on the market, it would crash the market and we would all be out of business. Our prices would go down. We'd have to move out. We'd have to work like real people.
Really?
He didn't say all of that. He just said, you'll crash the market with that. So be careful. And Lubo said, yeah, I know. And he just walked out.
Huh.
And I begged him on the elevator. I said, Lubo, come on, let's go make $125,000. What's wrong with you? Just give him, you have 100 of these statues. Just give him that one. We'll get the 125. I'll fly to Cuba. We'll go all over. Let's go. Come on. What are you doing? Why are you, he's like, no, this is my sculpture. I like it. It's artwork. I love their art. I said, wow, this guy is a very interesting man. He's very interesting. He's fallen in love with this place. Anyway, here's the end of my story.
So how old do you think that statue was?
Okay.
Years,
yeah,
500 years?
Yeah.
Years?
Well, from what I've learned, I got into the business after that a little bit. I shouldn't talk about it, but uh, Papua New Guinean, and well, okay. So it's all graded by how old it is, but everything pre-contact before the whites got there is very valuable.
Yeah.
Because when the whites came, everything changed. They started to make the sculptures and masks for the tourists, and then they started to make copies and replicas, and a lot of fraud came in. There's massive fraud in that market right now. The Chinese have figured out how to, beat a forensic carbon test. It's just crazy. The Chinese are amazing. But yeah, they're having a lot of problems in oceanic art because there's a lot of fraud. So I can't talk Lubo into selling anything. He goes back home. I go back and I meet him again and I say, I'm going to go for some artifacts, man, because the gold thing's too slow. And he said, no, you can't do that, man. So that you cannot have anything to do with artifacts related to me. If you want to do that, you got to go get your own place and you got to go start a company. And so I didn't listen to him. I think he knows by now. But I got a few things out of there, and they're pretty crazy valuable. If anybody collects Papua New Guinean art, I have some really old stuff that's very unique.
So you think he'd be mad at you that you did it then? Got some of the
He knows. Well, these guys, I don't know what it is, man. I've known a lot of guys like him. I'm different maybe, and maybe I'm not. Maybe if I got rich, I'd get selfish or weird or something, but I don't know. Like I'm a guy who shared, like you, Terry, you're sharing your time and all that, to do this. And you do that whole convention. I mean, I'm sure you come home with nothing after that. Who knows? I don't know what it's like, but yeah, there's certain guys, I've met a couple and they're just, I don't know what it is. They're jealous, I guess, of younger men coming in and they know they can't do it again. And yeah, I don't know what happens, but it was good to me. He was my host. You couldn't live anywhere else but his house, or you were screwed in Papua New Guinea. You
really?
Step out the door, you're going to get clobbered. No, you cannot walk around at night there. They will hack you up. I mean, and it's because they're all drunk. Okay, here, I'll explain why most of the violence happens because they have no tolerance to alcohol. When they drink alcohol, it goes straight to the brain. It doesn't pass through their liver. And then they get blind drunk within 3 beers. Blind drunk where they think everything is a demon in front of them. They don't even know where they are, and they're all running around like zombies. And if you I run into them a few times. I had to fight them off because I used to go jogging. Lubo's like, where are you going? I'm going jogging. I said, what are you, crazy? You can't outrun these guys. They're going to catch you. So I was trying to outrun them. They'd be drunk on the road and they chased me for 50 feet and then I would run away. But I couldn't do that anymore in my later trips. But anyway, I ended up making a deal with Ekis, the guy up on the Karawari River. I bought one of Lubo's machines, his big 8-inch machine. He gave me a great deal. I got a secondhand baby, 13 grand. They're normally about 50 grand for one of those things.
Really?
I got a beater. I fixed it all up with the local guys. Yeah, because they're all experts. Man, these guys could, like in Cuba, they could put together a wind-up toy to drive a Chevy in or something. So I got my machine. I invested about 40 grand. I bought boats, motors. I got all the tents, all the camping gear, backup machines. I hired about 10 guys, and we're all ready to go. But then I said, okay, before I do this, I got to take a break. So I go over to Bali. That's the other place to go. I'm a yoga teacher and a yoga guy. So I'm over in Bali hanging out with my yoga friends, and I meet this girl. Oh no, Terry. Oh no. Oh no. I met a girl. We fell in love in Bali, and she said, you're old, man. You got to have kids now. I said, yeah, you're right. That's all I want is kids. That's what this is all about. What are we doing here? Of course, it's about children. And so I said, all right, well, come over to Jayapura. That's like semi-civilized. At least you can flush the toilet and hang out with me. And I got to go over to Lubo's and close up this crazy business I started over there. So I went over to Lubo's. I told him, I'm in love. I'm going to get married and have a family. This is nuts. I'm going to get killed if I stay here. And I can't work over here with my wife. He said, all right, just bring her over for a month. Come on, she'll love it. I go, all right, yeah, maybe she'll want to go. I go back to Jayapura and I go back to Bali and I tell my wife, hey, we got married in Bali. Hey, do you want to go to Papua New Guinea? She said, yeah, I'm a birder. I want to see the birds. I want to see the hornbills. I want to see the fruit bats. I said, all right, let's go do a bird trip. So we go to Lubo's and we get the boats and everything, and we go upriver with Lubo. And that is the video that I sent you in that text.
Ah,
I made a video of that trip with my wife. We spent a month just prospecting on this little river, and she's birding and playing around. She adopted a hornbill. It was like something out of Jane Goodall, you know, it was, you know, living in the jungle with these people.
yeah.
Yeah, the place is fantastic. And you can drink the water in every stream. Once you get up the mountain, it's all rainwater. And they have these places there. They're called healing waterfalls. Because if you're working in the river, you're dealing with rocks and sticks, and they don't have shoes, you know, and they cut their feet all the time. And I was cutting my knees and stuff. And they would go to this river on one day a week, and they would all lay in the river all day long, and you would literally, your cuts would close up.
Serious.
Yeah, some minerals or maybe a sterility or I don't know what it was. And it was cold too, very cold. It was coming out of like a spring in the mountain. Yeah, and I walked up those rivers, Terry, and I went into the Stone Age world. On the stones that were the largest, these rivers have boulders the size of houses, you know, and you're walking through these boulders, and then you would find one that they liked, and then they sharpen all their stone axes on these big stones, and they make these beautiful concave
Mm,
cuts in the stone that are repeated up the rock. You know, you can see
yeah.
like Grandpa did
Yep.
it here, you know, great grandpa, ba ba ba,
Yep.
all the way up, you know. And yeah, that's what I think those scoop marks are on all that obelisk, you know, that everybody's, you know, thinks they're melting those stones. Of course they're not. There's someone just sat there for 10 years pounding on it. Come on.
So,
Yeah, melting stone. Okay.
so,
Terry, what do you think? Oh,
so,
well, anyway, I'll just finish. I'm sorry. Let me just finish.
okay.
I, I put everything in storage up in WeWack. I went back to my wife. We have two kids. In the meantime, they broken into the storage units that I hired. They burned the place down. I lost everything.
Really?
I lost all my gold equipment. I lost everything. So now I have two kids instead, and I live in Wisconsin, and I travel around the world still painting. And
So, you got started to do another gold adventure, but then you got married and it kind
yeah,
of fell apart and whatnot.
yeah.
So did it ever make enough that you just could survive on and you
Oh
could
yeah, I was
have a,
living off it. You know, I was making, you know, over there, everything is dirt cheap, really dirt. If you go to Bali, you can sit down for sushi for $3. You know, it's ridiculous, and you're stuffed. You know, ridiculous, so cheap. You know, beers are like 30 cents, 40 cents. Uh, so yeah, your money can go really far. But in America, no. I was making, I think at the most I made 8 grand one month. But I'm not working hard. But you know, that's that takes a month to organize everything, get the fuel, get the guys, get everything together. You got to get up there. It takes 2 days. Sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes there's floods, you know, trees in the river. I mean, literally the river be blocked with 4 trees. You're not going anywhere. You're turning around and going home. That's it. You know. And then there's these side rivers you can get trapped in that are frightening, man. Frightening. You know, these little eddies off the side and you know, and these guys, these river pilot guys that you have to hire, man, they know their way. They can find their way. It's unbelievable, man.
uh,
I thought we were goners like 20. I have videos, man, and I have videos in the rapids, man. I said, this is it, man. We're going down. Get ready to just swim for the shore, man. Yeah, so I lost everything, but I have a family.
you're quite the adventure to do all this, with the dangers and things like that and the hope of finding
Yeah.
things. That's
Yeah, I think I learned in New York City, there's two kinds of people. There's the kind of people who give their money to stick up people, and there's people who don't. And you find out within the first second of the encounter with a thief with a gun in your face whether or not you're the type of guy who gives up the money or you fight. I'm one of those guys who fights. I don't know why. I don't choose to fight, but if you're coming at me, I instinctively want to bite you, you know. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So anyway, so I learned that, and then you know, that came in handy in Papua New Guinea a few times. Yeah, I got in, you know, I could go on and on about some strange encounters because they have what's called a big man philosophy. The biggest man that's within view is the ruler of that territory, the one who's the strongest, most violent, most generous, wealthiest, funniest, loudest. That's the guy. So I had to be that guy. I have a really loud voice, luckily, and good stories, man. But oh, anyway, so the final thing about Lubo, I shouldn't tell you this, but it's so interesting. He has that map I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
This guy's loaded. He's got $1 million boat. You know, he doesn't need anything, but he's gone local. I told you, yeah, you can't find what he has anywhere else unless you go to Fiji or one of these other islands, you know. It's kind of special delicacies, as you can imagine. So he he lets me photograph his map. I'm not kidding.
Hmm.
He let me photograph his map, and he said, "Yeah, if you can find some guys to get up here, you know, go for it, man." And I'm like, "Okay." So and it goes on to another story. Do you want one more story about him? This is the
Sure.
big money story.
So are you planning on going back up there then?
No, my wife would never let me go back up there. No,
I was going to say he's probably getting up in the age, and when he
he's
comes,
80. He's in his 80s. He's in his 80s. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, he's there. You can go visit him. There's a Polish guy who was bothering me last year, and he's going, "Oh, I want to go up the river. I want to do gold with Lubo." I'm like, "Dude, do not do that. You're not going to make it. It's impossible. You need $100 million, and you need 10 years. 10 years, and maybe you'll come out of there with 500 million or more, but you can't." He's like, "Oh no, I'm going to buy a boat." I'm like, "No, you're not. You're going to buy a boat, but you're not going to own it for long. It's going to be somebody else's boat very fast." Anyway, so I have his map, and it's just so fun that I have it, and I look at it all the time, and it's nice to reminisce about, because everywhere you stop, it's a different tribe of people, and they're all so lovely. I mean, literally, when you land on the shore on the river, like hundreds of children come and jump in your boat, welcoming you with flowers.
Really?
Yeah, it's something out of a it's a fantasy place. They say the real like expat name for Papua New Guinea is Papua New Guinea, the land of the unexpected.
Well, I would think that Lubo, with all the relationships that he built over all the years, all the generosity he did with the different tribes, with the leaders of the tribes, that it probably didn't matter if somebody took a picture of his map. He's got them guarding his back. They're watching out for him because he watched out for them. He built relationships with them. So
yeah, he did. Yeah, he didn't care. I got to tell you another story about gold, and it's so funny. I'm sitting in his house. There's nothing to do there. You're overlooking the ocean, and he's got like Australian television on, and it's hot as hell. And you're trying to work in the shop, building stuff, trying to get everything ready, and there's nothing to do. And I'm thinking, okay, this guy Lubo, 30 years of gold going through this. If you go to his doorstep, everybody knocked on the door there. Then they walked through his garden. They sat down with him at his table where he has his scale. They pulled out his gold. They put it on the table. He waited. Then he walked back to his office, to the safe, opened the money, went back, gave them the money, and they left. I said, "How much gold has fallen out of the pockets and the fingers of these people who have been walking through the door and down through the patio to his office?" I said, "Lubo, can I dig up your patio and your office? I need some money, man." He let me dig it up. I found like 2 ounces.
Really?
Yeah, just on the ground. That's how many people had dropped it in 30 years walking through with. I mean, they literally would come. They come with a mason jar that's like 3 kilos full of just powder. They've been panning for 2 years, just every day, pan. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, great story. It's so fun to talk to you, Terry.
That is one heck of a story. So you was also telling me though that, and I did not really know this. I know about the Philippines and Yoshimita's gold, but I didn't know that it was also there in that happened in the Philippines. I didn't know about
in
that.
Papua New Guinea. Yeah, well, I didn't tell you that part of the story. You want to hear that part of the story?
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine you are the president of a country. You have the entire resources of the country. You have bribed everybody, and you've stolen everything you possibly can, and you're a billionaire, and you're looking for kicks. And you hear that the Japanese were using WeWack as a port to move these precious metals. From what I've learned, the Japanese would take every bit of metal that they found that was semi-precious. What do you call that? Types of metal? I forget, all the platinums and, all the gold, silver, what noble metals. And they would melt them down and put them into little ingots that are about the size of your two of your fingers. And then they would transport these ingots, but they're a mix of everything. Well, Lubo is fooling around up in the mountains, panning outside Wewak, with Michael Samari's son, the president's son, and they start finding this gold that is the mix that the Japanese had. And Lubo recognized it immediately because he's a scholar of history. He knows everything. He's got samples of every piece of gold that's come out of that place, and he's got a lot of these samples. They look like they're little, like, imagine when you drop solder down on a table and it turns into a little bead.
Yep.
Yeah. These are all little beads, but they're gold, platinum, silver, some copper, who knows. And the local people would bring them, and he would go, that's a weird thing. Where would that come from? How would the gold get melted in the river like that together? And then he did a lot of research. When the Japanese were retreating, the Americans and the Australians started to pound Wewak Harbor, where the Japanese fleet was. So all the men were trying to get as much gold as they possibly could to go home. They were all going home to Japan, get the hell out of Dodge. And they were up in the mountains they were stealing the ingots, going up in the hills and melting them down into little pieces of gold that they could carry in their uniforms. Because they found everything now. And so Lubo goes up there with Michael Samari, and they find some amazingly large caches of this stuff. Lubo kind of gets in an argument with Samari and his family, and I think that Lubo forgave them, of course. What's he going to do, But they hit it pretty big up there. And then I think I sent you a link to I sent you a picture, a screenshot that's very red. When Japan retreated, one of their ships was a treasure ship out of Wewak heading north, and it got sunk off the ledge there. There's a big, what do you call that, trench or a drop off? The volcanic island ends, and then the deep sea begins. That ship went down out there, and it's full of these ingots, the real ones, the original ingots. They were moving them to Japan. That's what they did. They moved them out of China, Singapore, Malaysia, to Japan, but then America blockaded Japan with a submarine blockade, so they couldn't move the gold to Japan anymore. So they put it in the Philippines, and then they were putting it in Indonesia, all over the place, Malaysia. It's hidden all over the place there. There's probably billions in gold hidden all over the jungles of Southeast Asia, because they were there 60 years. The Germans, the National Socialists, only occupied Europe for 7 years. Japan was 60 years in Manchuria and Malaysia and just taking everything. It was all, if you know the story, it's very interesting. It's the emperor. The emperor hired the Yakuza, the mafia, to become his generals. And it was, a super pillage, which is, that's war. That's how you get a soldier to come fight. Yeah, you get some rewards, boys. Yeah, I knew a guy who was in General Patton's 3rd Armored Division. He said in France, General Patton wouldn't let them steal anything. But as soon as they got to Germany, they hit every castle and they cleaned it out.
Really?
And what would happen though? General Patton would walk around the castle, and he had a thumbtack with his business card, and he put his thumbtack on everything he wanted, and it got packed and crated and sent right back. And this guy that I knew, he was a tank commander. He's 18, red-haired Irishman. That's how I got into this Irish kind of mafia thing in New York. His sons he was a looter from World War II, and his kids became looters in Vietnam, and then they came back to New York, and they knew how to steal, so they started stealing. Because they felt a little bit, dejected by their treatment as Vietnam War veterans. So anyway, this guy's over in a castle in, this is my Irish friend's father. He's over in a castle in Germany, and his tank gunner is an African-American guy from New York. And they're good friends, because African-American New Yorkers from that period of time were like very cool dudes, man. I knew a lot of old black guys in New York, man. I would sit down with them and you could talk and talk. And so this gunner comes running to my friend Terry's father and says, listen, look what I found. I found a coin collection. Giant leather-bound book full of gold coins. Barely lifted. And then he said, "Hey, I found something for you. It's a stamp collection. It's a leather-bound book with all these fancy little wax seals and rubber stamps and all these ancient signatures and stuff and all these weird stamps." So my friend took that. This is a great story, Terry. I know I'm keeping you a long time.
No, you're
So
good.
yeah, this is General. This guy fought all the way to Berlin, 18 years old. These guys slaughtered. They slaughtered, man. They slaughtered all the way through Germany. I don't know, like God must have been with them. Anyway, he's got this stamp collection. If you were in the army back then, all you had to do was wrap it in brown paper, put your address on it in the United States, and it would automatically be shipped back. He shipped back German daggers, Lugers, piles of Nazi stuff in his house. I was at his house a lot. Very interesting man. And there's a lot of stories that go along with that. Some strange psychic metaphysics stuff. Yeah, these guys had also learned how to beat the lottery with dreaming. I'm not kidding. The Irish mafia. They were working with the black mafia, who are all the bookies in New York. You had someone you interviewed who I spoke to, who's a psychic person who does. Oh, it's a woman who does work with. She does divining and.
Oh, Jeanette. Jeanette.
Yeah, I talked to her. Yeah, she was kind of familiar. Yeah, these guys, it's very weird. I don't know how they got into this dreaming thing. But anyway, he comes back from the war. He's a hero, but nobody really notices. He goes back to his wife and he says, "Where's the stamp collection?" He goes, "Right here, honey." Gives him the stamp collection. It's Friday afternoon. He's in such a hurry. He's so excited. He takes it to Herald Square in New York City. Across the street from Macy's is the largest stamp company, like a collector company, I think, in New York, right? It happens to be run by some tribal folks. He brings this book in. He's 18 years old. And he says, "Hey, guys, I got this book. I'd like to find out what it's worth." They say, "Oh, yeah, how, son? How you doing there, son?" "Yeah, well, it's Friday. We close at noon, but we'll be back on Monday. And why don't you leave that with us and we'll take a look at it?" And so he leaves it. He leaves it with them. He leaves the book with them. He comes back on Monday. The store is gone, vacated. There's not a single thing left, an empty store.
Really?
Gone. So then this guy is out for vengeance. And he sets his sons loose all over New York and the world. And I happened to run into one of them, became my best friend. And, he taught me how they stole a lot of things. I didn't get involved with that. I got slightly involved, and then I realized that these people are crazy.
So on Papua New Guinea, there's stories of when they was clearing for an airfield that they found some bones of some giants. And did you ever hear anything like that?
Yeah. Okay. Terry. Oh man, I live in Wisconsin. This is the land of the mounds. This is where the Copper Trail is. The Copper Trail is. The Phoenicians were all over this place. This place is loaded with mounds. Yeah, I'm into the giants. I've been into the giants for 10 years. I'm really tall. I'm 6'4". I follow Fritz Zimmerman and all these guys. And yeah, okay. I spent a year in Australia as well during this whole thing. And it's the same thing. The Aboriginals talk about these big white guys. You go to New Zealand, the big white guys were there before. The Polynesian, Mongol, New Zealanders are there, but in Papua New Guinea, I didn't actually hear anything about giants, but I heard a lot about the ancestors. But I didn't know about the giants back then, so I didn't know to ask them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know to ask them, and I was focused on protecting my buttocks most of the time. Yeah. Yeah, no giants, but Terry, here, this giant thing has got to be solved. It's got to happen. I know the bones are out there. I have an idea. Listen, every town has a historical society. Every member of that village or town has access to that place. Everybody just has to go and knock on the door, buy a 6-pack of beer for the director of that museum, or bake him a cake, make friends with him, and then while you're cracking a beer after you made friends, say, "Hey, you got any bones that turned up from these copper people, or the mound people, or the blah blah blah," and something's going to pop up, because the Native American Act is not going to take all the bones. They don't know about all of them. I mean, there's bones everywhere. Imagine they're pulling bones out of every mound for 100 years, and they're all, half of them are giants. Jeez.
Yeah, well, if here's the problem, if they get caught with them because of the NAGPRA, the laws, if they get caught and if they've taken funding from the government, man, they're in big trouble. But
Yeah.
by taking funding from the government, man,
Yeah.
makes them beholding to all them laws and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
if
they're
they
frightened, of
have
course.
to have something, they're not going to say anything for fear of losing all their
Yeah.
funding.
But these
Fear.
guys, I have a historical society here. These guys don't know about that. They don't know about the NAGPRA laws. They don't know anything about it. They never heard of it.
Huh?
Because they've only been there 4 years, and they're just like retired guys from the community who just have the keys to the building. They don't.
Mm,
They'll let you rummage around downstairs. Gee, who
cool.
cares?
Cool.
It's historical society.
Yeah.
Just come up with some excuse to get in there, like say, hey, you're looking for looking for photos of the building that you live in. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go down and say, I'm in a historical building.
Awesome.
I'm going to say, hey, I want to look at the photos. By the way, where are the bones? Where are they? Where's that box of bones? I'd like to look at a couple of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the giant thing. It's getting amazing. Oh, who was that you interviewed, I think 2 years ago, an anthropologist, a young guy who was just getting started, and he said he is going to get to the bottom of it. Where is that guy now? Remember him? Remember that young guy you interviewed? He was, I think he just got his degree, his master's degree.
Yeah.
He's got long hair. He's very, very smart guy. And he said, that's what I'm going to dedicate my career to. And I said, okay, this guy is going to come up with something because, all these people with stories, come on, forget it. I don't want to hear any more stories.
Yeah.
Let's get some bones. Like, there's got to be bones out there. I mean, I've read every single chronicle from every conquistador, and even the English ones. Drake. Drake's running around with these giants up there. He said their voices were so loud that it was painful to be around them. Because your vocal cord is that long. It's this giant thing. You can make a loud noise, by blowing air through it. Imagine they're screeching. Who knows what they sounded like? Yeah. And then even Buffalo Bill. I'd have never heard this before on any podcast anywhere about giants. I have Buffalo Bill, I have 10 biographies about him. When he was out doing his show, the Native American Indians presented him with a femur bone that was 5 feet long. And I never heard of it ever again. And he mentions it in his biography. One of them, I don't remember which one.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened to that thing, but I mean, it's incredible. Wow. Do you know about the Old World Florida channel? Okay, Terry, you got to get these guys on the line. These guys are young guys who do not care about anything. They are after it. They're after every strange thing that happened in Florida, and they're not stupid. They're very organized, and they're discovering incredible things. They're going through archives. They're digging through archives. Yeah, the giant bogmen in Florida that were found. Yeah, they're all over that. They may have even found something by now, but aren't telling anybody because they're a little bit rogue. They're kind of pissed.
Yeah.
Imagine being a 20-year-old. What future is there for them? It's like, geez, when is the war going to end? It's just it never ends.
Yeah.
Please. I mean, your whole life, Terry, we've been at war the whole time. Me too.
So, Stephen, man, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us and telling us your ventures because there's not a lot of people willing to do what you did. You didn't make it big, but you had some great adventures and some great stories. And with that said, Stephen, man, thanks. And that's a wrap.